Chris Fletcher, who fans know as a longtime friend of the cast and someone often caught in the middle of Marsau and Maurice Scott's drama, has just had his real estate license revoked for fraud, found guilty of multiple violations, and fined over $10,000. Viewers, you do not want to miss a single detail of this, because by the end of this video, you'll understand just how deep this situation goes and how it connects back to so many of the cast members. Make sure you watch until the very end, because I'm going to not only break down the charges but also connect the dots between Chris Fletcher's downfall, his wife Nell Fletcher's recent clashes with Tisha Scott, and how all of this could impact the future of the show. Now let's start with how this bombshell even came to light. Recently, fans discovered that the Alabama Real Estate Commission handed down a decision against Chris Fletcher, one that is both shocking and career-ending. He was found guilty of multiple violations, ranging from misrepresentation and dishonest acts to failing to properly handle money, ignoring investigators, and even failing to maintain a legitimate business address. These weren't small slip-ups. These were 6 separate charges that stacked up to the point where the commission had no choice but to revoke his license permanently. That means Chris Fletcher cannot practice real estate in the state of Alabama ever again. And while this may sound like just a legal issue, the connections back to the cast make this story much bigger than it seems. If you've been following the show, you know Chris Fletcher isn't just some side character. He's married to Nell Fletcher, who has recently become a major talking point on the show, especially after her sit-downs with Tisha Scott. Nell called out Tisha for not being transparent, which Tisha did not take lightly. Their conversation ended with Tisha storming off, accusing Nell of being influenced by Shari and others. And now, with Chris's license revoked, many fans are already wondering if Nell will speak out on this situation or if the cast will use it as another storyline against her. This is where it gets messy, because on this show, personal issues never stay private for long. Think about it. When Destiny Payton had financial troubles, it was dragged into the storyline. When Martell Holt's cheating scandal broke, it became the backbone of the series. Shari's struggles, Maurice Scott's law firm challenges, Kimmi Scott's health journey, and even Wanda's constant drama, everything ends up in the spotlight. So, do you really think Chris Fletcher losing his license after being found guilty of fraud will just quietly disappear? Not at all. And that's why you need to keep watching until the end. Because the way this connects to Martell Holt, Marsau, Scott, and even old drama around Destiny Payton will blow your mind. Let's break down exactly what Chris Fletcher was found guilty of. First, he was hit for engaging in misrepresentation and dishonest or fraudulent acts in real estate transactions, including those involving family members. This means investigators believe he lied or manipulated deals involving his own properties or those tied to his spouse or children. That right there is serious. Then, he was found guilty of engaging in conduct that showed dishonest dealings, bad faith, or untrustworthiness. Imagine being a client who trusts an agent with your money, only to learn they were being dishonest. That alone can ruin reputations. But it doesn't stop there. Chris was also guilty of failing to properly disperse earnest money after a sales transaction. Earnest money is the deposit buyers put down to show they're serious. It's supposed to be handled carefully and returned or applied to the purchase as agreed. If that money isn't properly given to the right party, that's not just sloppy, it's illegal. Then, investigators asked Chris for information, and he failed to provide it in a reasonable time. Think about that. The state commission is investigating you, and instead of cooperating, you ignore them. That never ends well. On top of that, he changed his business address and failed to notify the commission. And finally, his place of business didn't even meet the legal requirements to qualify as a legitimate office. Each of these violations led to fines, $2,500 for the major ones and $500 for the others, stacking up to over $10,000. And the biggest penalty? His license revoked permanently. Now here's where fans are starting to connect dots. Do you all remember when Martell Holt was staying in one of Chris Fletcher's houses for too long and it turned into drama? Or how Destiny Payton once went off on Chris Fletcher because he allowed a blogger to show up at an open house. That clip never fully made it to air, but several bloggers talked about Destiny confronting Chris and Nell. At the time, fans thought it was just a heated moment. But now, with these fraud charges, people are asking if there was already smoke around Chris's dealings. Was this pattern of behavior always there, and people just brushed it off because Chris was cool with Martell and the Scott brothers? Let's not forget that Nell Fletcher has been getting more screen time, clashing directly with Letitia Scott. Letitia claims Nell only dislikes her because of what others, maybe even Melody Shari, said about her. But Nell insists she simply doesn't believe Letitia and Kimmi are as transparent as they want viewers to believe. And honestly, with Chris now losing his license in such a public way, Nell may have even more fuel for her storyline. Imagine Nell on camera saying, "Yes, my husband messed up, but at least we're not hiding behind fake images like some of y'all." You can already hear the drama, and this is where Marsau Scott and Maurice Scott come into the mix. Remember, Chris once said Marsau and Maurice would be the ones to talk to about the infamous NDA cheating rumors. That statement was messy and made Letitia furious because it brought up old wounds about Marsau's alleged affairs. Now, with Chris's reputation being questioned, Marsau and Maurice may try to distance themselves from him. But it's not that simple. The Huntsville circle is small, and Chris has always been tied to Martell and the Scotts. Fans are already buzzing, wondering if Marsau will throw shade, or if Maurice will defend Chris since he has always been quick to argue about evidence and proof. And where does this leave Melody Shari? Fans are praising her for stepping away from the chaos, saying this is exactly why she chose to protect her brand and not be tied up in all the drama anymore. One fan even said, "Mel dodged a bullet because this circle just keeps getting dragged into scandals." And honestly, they're right. From Martell Holt's public downfall, to Destiny's struggles, to Wanda constantly clashing with people, and now Chris Fletcher's fraud case, the mess never stops. Melody removing herself may have been the smartest move she ever made, but don't think for a second that this situation is over. Viewers, you need to stick around to the end, because I'm about to show how this may shape next season. If you think Nell Fletcher and Letitia Scott were clashing before, wait until this comes up on camera. Letitia is already calling Nell messy, accusing her of being influenced by others, and promising that Nell's behavior only gets worse as the season goes on. Imagine Letitia confronting Nell on camera about Chris's revoked license. That would be explosive television. Letitia has always fought hard to defend Marsau against cheating rumors, so you know she won't miss the chance to throw shade at Nell over Chris's downfall. And then there's Destiny Payton. She already had tension with Chris, and we know Destiny never holds back. If this situation makes it to filming, Destiny might remind everyone how she once confronted Chris. And now she feels validated. Add Wanda to the mix, and you can picture her going live, dragging Nell and Chris while still trying to defend her daughter Letitia. It's a never-ending cycle of drama. Viewers, do you see how this all ties together? This isn't just about Chris Fletcher's license being revoked. This is about how personal scandals become storylines, how cast members use each other's mistakes as ammunition, and how the show thrives off of chaos. Chris may not be a main cast member, but his connections to Martell Holt, Marsau Scott, Maurice Scott, and Nell Fletcher mean his downfall